There's a new deputy director for the FBI.
Yeah, Dan Bongino will now be sharing the role with Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Bailey was appointed as Attorney General after his predecessor left, and he just won re-election in November. He's a strong Trump supporter and even defended the president in court last year and in 2024. Bailey's joining of the FBI comes at a time where the agency has been heavily questioned over, of course, the Epstein files.
Joining us now to speak more about Bailey's role in the FBI, our legal guru, Zach Schoenfeld. Good to see you, Zach.
Good morning.
So tell us the impact of all of this and what's going on.
Well, the real big question is here is what is the future of Dan Bongino in his role now for months now as the FBI's deputy director. We know that in the wake of all of the fallout over the Epstein files, there had been reports coming out in the wake of all that back in July that he had been frustrated. Of course, before he joined the administration, he was a podcaster. Really, a lot of his fame came talking about the Epstein case, and now here he is as the second in command at the FBI, and we know, according to reports, that he was very frustrated. And now here we are about a month later, and the Trump administration, for the first time ever, has decided to give him a co-deputy director. Obviously, the deputy director is a role that we always have, but nothing like this where you have two people really sharing the job. So still no details as to exactly how they're splitting up their responsibilities, but it certainly is interesting.
Of course, Andrew Bailey brings something that Dan Bongino doesn't have, which is a legal background. How could that impact the work that he does, especially as it relates to the Epstein files, because we know that the Trump administration has sort of gone to the courts to try to get some of that information released.
That's right. Bailey will certainly give more prosecutor chops to the FBI here. You know, I do think it's interesting, though, that both of them really do break with what's been the historical tradition for selecting someone for deputy director of the FBI. Usually we see someone take this role who has worked their way up through the agency and has worked their way up through the ranks, but neither of the duo here, you know, took that path. Obviously, Bongino is very different as a podcaster, and now we're going to have Bailey coming in as a prosecutor. And as you were alluding to just a moment ago in the setup, we know that he has, you know, not been afraid to take on big cases, whether it be fighting against big tech. He made a big case about alleging that the Biden administration had committed censorship with social media platforms. And also, as you mentioned, even getting involved in Donald Trump's criminal case in New York and bringing that to the Supreme Court. So certainly bringing a little bit of a different background than Bongino has.
Let's talk about the FBI's current role in the Epstein files and what it thinks, because it's gone back and forth over time.
Yeah, that's right. And now the latest step here has been this joint memo that the FBI and the DOJ released back last month, indicating that they believe that the government's view is that Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide in his jail cell back in 2019, and also saying that there is no sort of incriminating client list out there that we haven't seen. Now, obviously, that has sparked a lot of frustration from much of Trump's own base, wanting to see more. And now you have the Justice Department trying to push in court. We're still waiting on that one last judge to tell us if he's going to release some of these grand jury materials, but some of that really is now being rooted through the Justice Department. But it was the FBI signing on to that joint memo last month, making some of those statements that have caused such outrage among Trump's base.
Let's switch gears and talk about the latest in the Abrego-Garcia saga. His attorneys have asked for his case to be thrown out for what they call vindictiveness. What's going on here?
Yeah, this is quite actually a high bar to clear legally speaking, because he essentially has to show that, you know, if he was, you know, just a normal person, not in the national headlines and all of that, that this case would not have been brought. The allegation here is that the Trump administration is unfairly singling him out to the point where it's actually violating his rights. So they have now asked the federal judge in Tennessee, who is overseeing these human smuggling charges, to dismiss the case on that ground. Now, this is, you know, a type of singled out, but at least that's the case now that Abrego-Garcia's lawyers are going to try to make.
So what do you think their chances are, Zach?
Well, you know, I think before that motion is even decided, there's going to be a lot that happens that could really change the picture, because we are right now just days away from when we are expecting his release from that jail in Tennessee. That release order came in just under a month ago, but it was put on pause for about 30 days so the parties could kind of figure things out. But now we're coming up at the end of that window. So we are expecting going into this weekend that, at least as of now, Abrego-Garcia is set to walk out of that Tennessee jail. Now, there is an order from the judge here in the DMV custody in Greenbelt, Maryland, that prevents him from being immediately deported. Also says that he gets to come back to Maryland without being taken into ICE custody. But there is going to be that big question once he is back here in Maryland. Will ICE take him back into custody? Will they try to deport him again? Because if they do that, of course, that could really throw a wrench in the criminal.
And there's a time limit on that. What's it, like 72 hours or something?
That's right. The judge in Maryland has told the administration that they need to provide at least 72 hours notice to Abrego-Garcia before deporting him again. And the thought there is his lawyers basically, they want notice, so if the government wants to try to deport him, they can have a chance to try to come into court and block that. But at least as of now, they have to provide at least 72 hours notice.
One final thing on this motion. I know the U.S. Attorney's Office down in Tennessee didn't comment. Are they going to file a response to this, and when might we see it?
Yeah, they will have an opportunity to respond in court filings. Now, this just came in last night, so we haven't seen it yet. Typically, they will have a few weeks to respond. The judge hasn't necessarily set a deadline here for them to respond, but that is definitely something you can expect.
All right, the Hill's legal guru, Zach Schoenfeld, got an edition of The Gavel coming out this morning?
Just about 30 minutes.
All right, go check that out, Zach. We appreciate it as always.
Thanks, Zach.